what if what you perceive as real, what you touch and see every day, is actually manufactured? Our digital worlds are blurring the lines with reality, and honestly, it's happening faster than most of us realize. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the fascinating and, well, sometimes unsettling convergence of artificial intelligence and this concept of hyperreality.
Yeah, it's a big topic. For this deep dive, we're leaning heavily on a really insightful analysis, AI, hyperreality, and the Sophimatics paradigm by Gerardo Iovan and Giovanni Iovan. Their work does a fantastic job tracing the evolution from Jean Baudrillard's original concept of hyperreality
Right.
all the way to the AI-made simulated worlds we're starting to see now.
Yeah.
And they draw on work from key researchers too, like Wheeler, Largy and Dattery, Musnug, Leslie. It gives a really rounded view.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to unpack how AI is actually building these incredibly immersive simulated realities. We'll explore the benefits, because there are some surprising ones, but maybe more importantly, tackle the really profound ethical and epistemic challenges they bring up. How these simulations might change what we know and how we know it, and then maybe look at how we navigate this completely new landscape. Okay, so to really grasp how AI is making Baudrillard's idea real, let's quickly touch on hyperreality itself, the idea where the simulation becomes more real or even better than the real thing. How is AI taking this, theoretical concept and making it something tangible, something we experience?
It's actually quite striking. These AI-made simulations with their incredibly immersive virtual environments, they're basically blurring the lines,
Yeah.
between just a representation and what feels like reality. Think about real-time data feeding in, generative content being created on the fly, user actions shaping the world, all happening in these AI-run virtual spaces like MMOs, right?
Yeah.
Massively multiplayer online games.
Where you can lose hours.
Exactly. Or even industrial digital twins that perfectly mirror real systems. Researchers like Wheeler have pointed out how this leads to a kind of replacement of the real.
Replacement of the real. Wow, that's a strong phrase. So are you saying for someone really deep in these worlds, the whole question of authenticity, like what's really real about their experience, starts to wobble?
Precisely. The environments are so rich, so responsive, participants can genuinely feel more connected to the virtual experience than their physical reality. The ontological status, basically what's fundamentally real, it becomes ambiguous. It's a huge shift in perception.
And it's definitely not just about fun and games, is it? Because as fascinating as that is, these simulations are being used for much more serious stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Beyond entertainment, simulations are becoming incredibly powerful tools, predicting real-world dynamics, for instance. Imagine training surgeons or pilots, right? They can practice complex, high-stakes procedures hundreds of times virtually, safely.
Before ever touching a real patient or plane.
Exactly. Or city planning, modeling urban growth against, say, climate change scenarios. Testing designs before you lay a single brick. It speeds up discovery, too. Scientists testing millions of drug interactions in a virtual lab, or modeling virus spread much faster than before. These are real benefits with huge societal value. And when we talk about AI's role here, it's really the architect and the manager. AI sets the rules of the game, acts as the complete manager. It has total control over your simulated experience. It's both the creator and the final arbiter of this manufactured reality.
It's almost like the AI builds a whole universe with its own physics, its own rules, and we're just inhabitants. That idea Wheeler mentioned, what is manufactured becomes more real to us than reality, that's incredibly powerful and honestly a bit unnerving.
It is, and a very concrete example is generative content. AI can dynamically create scenarios that mirror your behavior as a player. It evolves characters, dialogues, whole environments to fit your specific experience. It learns you.
So it's not just a static, pre-programmed world.
Not at all. It's adapting to you, learning, building as you interact, in real time. And moving beyond entertainment again, this power of AI, particularly agent-based models and simulations, reaches into really important scientific and even philosophical areas. AI can create new hypothetical realities or even reconstruct historical ones. This lets us test things, experiment in ways that would be too dangerous or just plain impossible in the real world. For instance, simulating complex human behaviors, societal structures. It helps us understand systems like ecosystems, political dynamics, economic trends much better.
Okay, so the power is undeniable, the benefits are there. But here's where it gets tricky, right? There has to be a catch. What are the limitations? Especially when we're building knowledge only inside these artificial boxes.
That's the crucial point. Operating purely within these artificial domains. While the validity can be limited, the knowledge you gain might not fully apply outside that specific simulation. Errors or just built-in limitations in the simulation itself can really reduce how effective or relevant that information is in the real world.
So simulations are great for hypotheses, for what-ifs.
Exactly. Super useful for that. But researchers have to be careful not to misuse them for, say, direct policy recommendations without a ton of real-world validation first. And this leads us right into the ethical challenges. As these virtual worlds get closer and closer to feeling real, the psychological and ethical risks get bigger too.
Yeah, and one immediate worry is that detachment from reality, isn't it? Musnug talks about addiction, escapism, people potentially checking out of real-world interactions. You do wonder if some might prefer the curated simulation over messy reality.
Precisely. And it's not just individual psychology. What if the creators manipulate the simulation, set parameters that only benefit them? This could subtly steer user decisions, user choices within that world.
That's a concerning thought.
It really raises the need for clear rules, for regulations to make sure these interactions are fair, balanced, ethical, and transparent.
And this isn't just confined to immersive VR worlds, is it? AI is weaving this illusion of hyperreality into our everyday lives just through the sheer amount of content it generates now.
It's absolutely true. AI-driven content creation feeds this illusion, both online and offline. AI can write realistic text, design graphics, compose music, stuff that's practically indistinguishable from human work. Largy and Dattery called it an economy of appearances, and that feels pretty accurate.
An economy of appearances.
But these amazing abilities come with serious risks. Think about deepfakes mimicking or synthesizing images, videos. Combine that with other generated content, and you've got a recipe for widespread fake news, misinformation. It gets really hard to tell what's real.
Which could be weaponized. Elections, for instance.
Exactly. It makes proper verification absolutely critical before we just accept or share information. And another big challenge, especially with large language models, is this issue of hallucinations. Basically, outputs that don't match the training data or are just illogical, maybe ungrammatical. AI systems can generate very plausible sounding stuff based on completely fabricated information. Largy and Dattery really flagged this.
So if AI can just make things up convincingly, it forces a really fundamental question, doesn't it? Can we ever fully trust what these systems tell us?
That really is the core issue. It's difficult, even for experts, to always tell correct knowledge from something fabricated but plausible. And the technical limitation often comes down to AI prioritizing fluency, sounding good over being strictly accurate, especially when it has access to so much information.
It wants to sound convincing, even if it's wrong.
Pretty much.
And then there's us, humans. We tend to want to believe synthesized content, right? We often link technology with truth. So we might give AI more credit, more power than it actually has, and maybe undervalue our own judgment in the process.
Yeah, and that leads straight into the major epistemic challenges, the challenges to knowledge itself. As we use simulations more and more to test ideas, answer what-ifs, we absolutely have to be clear about the status of knowledge that comes from these simulations. How well does it apply to the real world? Wheeler stressed understanding those boundaries. We need to recognize the built-in limitations, the impact of the assumptions we make when setting up the simulation. Agent-based models, computer simulations, they always depend on those initial conditions being valid, right? These controlled environments let us look at things differently, but we have to distinguish between realistic scenarios giving usable knowledge and simulations designed purely to explore hypotheticals that aren't grounded in reality.
So what does that mean for fields making critical decisions based on these models? Like climate policy, the stakes are incredibly high there.
For areas like climate policy or assessing existential risks, it's absolutely imperative to acknowledge and clearly communicate when an AI or simulation has limitations. We have to remember, AI often prioritizes sounding coherent over being completely reliable. It can't just be blindly trusted. So constant awareness of potential uncertainty is vital, especially with complex, high-stakes issues. And there's another fundamental human habit we need to factor in, our tendency to, well, anthropomorphize AI, to treat it like it has intentions. Largy and Dattery pointed out, we tend to ascribe mental states, like beliefs, to AI agents.
Which makes sense for immersion in a simulation, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it can lead us to misunderstand what AI is actually doing, can it? Because AI responses are just outputs from calculation statistics. There's no free will or consciousness there.
Exactly. And by applying this human filter, by anthropomorphizing, we often become less critical of what the AI does. It reinforces the illusion of the simulated reality. We end up seeing not reality itself, but maybe an imitation or even a manipulation. Musnug brought up contextual integrity, the idea that information should be used ethically, consistently with how it was gathered, and what people expect.
And when that's violated?
That's when you see problems, like agent models predicting human behavior in ways that overgeneralize or exclude certain groups, leading to unfair or just plain wrong predictions.
Okay, so we've outlined a lot of challenges, some pretty deep pitfalls, but these technologies do expand what we can create, what we can explore. We shouldn't just dismiss them, surely.
Not at all. Dismissing them isn't the answer. That's why there's this growing call for interdisciplinary strategies grounded firmly in philosophy. How do we build those? Well, that's where ideas like the Sophimatics paradigm, which must not discuss, come in. It aims to bridge the gap, get philosophers, computer scientists, designers, sociologists talking the same language, working together.
Building ethics in from the start, not adding it on later.
Precisely. And we already have some frameworks trying to do this, like ISIOM support, underwrite, motivate, or the fast-track principles Leslie highlighted. They guide AI design to try and incorporate ethical and societal factors, maximize the good, minimize the harm. But the key, really, is consistent oversight and always focusing on human well-being.
Well, this has been quite a journey. We've navigated through this really complex world of AI, hyperreality, simulations, all the way from Baudrillard's original thoughts to the very real ethical and knowledge challenges we're facing right now.
I think the most critical takeaway is this. AI is incredibly intelligent, incredibly powerful, yes, but it cannot be trusted completely or blindly. It's just imperative that we as users, as citizens, as thinkers, stay really aware of its limitations and also aware of our own human tendencies, like anthropomorphizing or over-trusting technology. It's not about being scared, it's about being informed.
Yeah, informed vigilance. So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. As we move inevitably towards more AI-driven simulated realities in our lives, how do we make sure these technologies enhance us? Enhance human understanding, critical thinking, our well-being, instead of unknowingly letting them replace or just diminish our connection to what's actually real. It really does make you stop and think, doesn't it?